Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are LA.
It's time for Angel Spring Training Baseball this afternoon from Tempe Diablo Stadium. It's the Angels and the Texas Rangers. Beautiful day today here in the Valley. Looks like the rain is pushed on through. Bright sunshine as we get ready for action today. Angels taking on the Texas Rangers. Terry Smith along with Jose Mota. Jose, the Angels are undefeated in Cactus League play. In fact, the only undefeated team in exhibition play in the majors right now. A victory yesterday against the Chicago Cubs in Mesa. Today, the Rangers on hand. Jose, one thing we've seen the Angels do a good job of so far this spring is pitch. And we all know you can never have enough depth as far as pitching is concerned, especially starting pitching.
And that was part of the plan going into the offseason, considering that the Angels, because of the injuries to the starting staff last year, Terry, used 15 different starters. But think about it. It is a trend around Major League Baseball. The Cubs, world champions, used 11. You talk about the champions of the American League, the Indians, they used 9. But so far, the guys that have gone out there and started for the Angels are giving themselves a chance to be seen when it's going good, when it's not going so well, and see how they're getting out of trouble from Petit, Norris, Ramirez, and Banuelos. So what they're doing is, of course, getting stretched out a little bit earlier and finding their way back into simplifying things, perhaps apply some of those things they've talked about in meetings, using the defense, and certainly giving the Angels, Terry, that thought of, okay, we cannot project for 5. Nobody in baseball can do that. Example, Manny Banuelos, who got the chance to throw yesterday, got himself into some jams, arm action problems with the walks, but found himself back into what he needed, which is go out there, simplify it, throw some strikes. So far, because of course the prolonged spring training, guys are getting an early look and they're taking advantage of it.
Well, Jose, today we'll see Jesse Chavez, a newcomer with the Angels. The Angels signed him after last season. SoCal native will get the baseball. He's been a starter or a reliever in the past. He was strictly a reliever last season, now transitioning back into a rotation.
Good to see him coming back home. And of course, for Jesse Chavez, is a matter of him saying already in spring training, I want to be a starter. But hey, the ties to Southern California, of course, the local kid from Riverside City College, picked by the Rangers. How about this? 42nd rounder in 2002. Did not sign, though, until 2003. But, Terry, he's been around the big leagues. And certainly his numbers as a starter throughout his career have been better than as a reliever. But he provides the Angels a lot because he pitches with an edge. He is gutsy, and certainly he is flexible to know that if he's not in the rotation, he's a multi-inning guy out of the bullpen.
Only 67 innings last year for him. The Angels hoping maybe he has 200 in that arm here in 2017. Let's talk about, like to call him Mr. Dependable, Mr. Reliable. He's the Angels right fielder. That's Cole Calhoun. He's in the lineup today. A lot of the regulars are back in there. Cole Calhoun, a guy that just keeps on grinding.
I'll tell you what, so many players in that clubhouse identify with his attitude, the character, what he brings, and the way he plays the game. He does so many things right. All-star caliber player, Gold Glover, efficient thrower, very accurate and very strong, who will help you on both sides of the baseball. He can drive the baseball, cut down the strikeouts last year. Slugging percentage went up, more doubles, and also what he needed to do in the top of that lineup is to provide opportunities for Mike Trout. And of course, that on-base percentage also went up. And for Cole Calhoun and how big he is to the Angels, who better to say that than his manager, Mike Scioscia.
Well, I think when someone plays as hard as Cole, there's no doubt it has an effect on other players. This guy never gives in, never gives up, plays every pitch to the last out. And that kind of influence is important on your team, and that's why he's one of the leaders on our club.
We'll see how Jesse Chavez fares as Martin Perez will face him. For Perez, it'll be his second start this spring. One of the pitchers in the rotation for the Rangers again here in 2017. Well, we have great weather. Start of a 3-game homestand for the Angels as they get ready to take on the division rival Texas Rangers, the defending champs in the AL West. We'll have the start of the ball game. The lineups coming up for you next right here on Fox Sports West.
Stadium as the Angels take the field. So glad you could join us. Jose Mora, Terry Smith here as Jeff Bannister and the American League West champion Texas Rangers visit the Angels here in Tempe Diablo. Carlos Gomez will lead off for him. Did a fine job for them leading off in center field after getting acquired from the Astros. Signed as a free agent, actually, after getting released. Shin-So Shu is in right field batting second. Nomar Mazzaro will bat third. Young designated hitter, impressive player last year. Mike Napoli, welcome back to Texas. Napoli is at first base batting fourth. Rugnet Odor is at second base batting fifth. Joey Gallo is batting sixth in left field. Robinson Chirinos is a catcher batting seventh. Doug Bernier will make the start at shortstop for the Rangers batting eighth. And Andy Ibanez will play third base and he will bat ninth. For the Angels, with Jesse Chavez on the mound, Mike Scioscia with Cameron Maybin leading off in left field. Cole Calhoun will bat second in right field. Mike Trout, American League MVP, is in center field, as always batting third. Luis Valbuena makes a start, batting fourth at first base. Danny Espinoza and the Beard is at second base batting fifth. Jeffrey Marte, hitting the ball very well here this spring so far, is batting sixth. He's playing third base. Martin Maldonado is the Angels designated hitter. Carlos Perez is the catcher batting eighth, and Cliff Pennington makes a start batting ninth for the Angels at shortstop. Martin Perez against Jesse Chavez. Terry, beautiful day. Guys are rolling. It's a little cool here, and certainly the wind could be a factor somehow, but maybe perhaps I'm keeping the ball in the ballpark today.
All right, we'll see how it plays out, Jose. Angels had a couple of home runs yesterday against the Cubs in Mesa, their first two this spring. Mentioned the weather's still a little bit cool here, but we're hearing it's going to warm up tomorrow. It should be in the 80s, and if we keep our fingers crossed, it might remain that way through the duration of spring training. We'll find out. So we are just about set to go. On the hill, Jesse Chavez. He's looking in for the sign from his catcher, Carlos Perez. And here's the first pitch today. That one is right in there for a called strike. We're underway, and the count 1 ball, no strikes. The excitement at the game and at game time feels as refreshing and delicious as Stella Rosa wines. Time to celebrate. Find Stella Rosa wines at Angel Stadium and your favorite retailer. 73 degrees at game time. First pitch back home today was at 12:09. And on the 2-0 delivery, it's a pitch that misses on Carlos Gomez. The count goes to 3-0. Jesse ready and swinging and chasing that one. Update the count for you. That was a 2-strike delivery, and that one is cut on and missed. Struck him out. Scoreboard a little bit off with the ball and strike count today.
It's early spring. It's early spring. He needs his time too.
Wow.
But Carlos Gomez was out of there quickly. And Jesse Chavez is always on the attack.
So the batter now is Shin-Soo Choo. Choo, a veteran player who's trying to have a healthy season for the Texas Rangers. Boy, his last few years, he's had a lot of injury issues. Only played in 33 games for them a year ago. And here's the next delivery. That one a little bit low.
Multi-talented player. It's on a hefty contract, but boy, just last season, calf issues, hamstring, back, and forearm kept him out of the field.
Here's a soft bouncer hit right to second. Danny Espinosa will handle that one cleanly. Chew an easy out, and 2 are gone here with little trouble for Jesse Chavez. Nomar Mazara will be the next batter. The Texas Rangers come into this game with a 1-4 Cactus League mark. The Angels are 4-0. And as far as who's in and who's out, that's brought to you by In-N-Out Burgers. That's what a hamburger's all about. In the lineup for the Angels today, some of the regulars who haven't seen a whole lot of action, at least in the first 4 games. Mike Trout is in there. Cole Calhoun's in there. Cam Maben in there for the Angels. Danny Espinosa in the lineup as well. So they are in for the Angels. Some of the reserve players who've been seeing maybe a little bit more time than the regulars not in the starting lineup. We could see some of them as we get deeper into this game. 1-0 pitch on Mazara, missed the count. 2 balls and no strikes. Nomar Mazara, young player, had a very good rookie season last year. Ended up with 20 home runs for Texas and 64 driven in, played in 145 games.
Mazara absolutely feasted off of Angels pitching. Out of those 20 home runs, 5 came against the Angels, and against the Halos he hit .397.
So the count on him is 3 balls and 1 strike as Chavez delivers, and that's cut on and missed. Jesse Chavez will throw a lot of pitches. Fastball, he'll throw a sinker as well. Slider, good cut fastball was cutter. Good curveball, he'll throw a changeup as well.
And Nick Cutter is his pitch. Telling me early this spring I need to continue to trust it, throw it, and there's one of them.
And on a 3-2, he gets Mazara looking, and that will end the inning. So a strong first inning for Jesse Chavez, his first game this spring on the hill for the Angels. 3 up, 3 down, pair of strikeouts. We've completed a half inning here in Tempe. We have no score. You're listening to the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Martin Perez, the starting pitcher for Texas, has completed his warm-up tosses. Bottom of the first inning we go. And the first inning, it's being brought to you by Rennick Subaru for Subaru and the Subaru A Lot of Love event. Think Rennick first. RENICK Subaru.com. So the batter is Cameron Maben. He's leading off for the Angels today, playing in left field. And here's the first pitch from Perez. That one is taken and it misses for ball one. Infield backed up except for Andy Ibanez, the third baseman. Here's the next pitch. This is chopped out towards short. Diving, stopping it is Bernier. His throw to first. It is in time. That was a nice play by Doug Bernier, who is in camp with the Texas Rangers. Had some major league experience in the past, some time with the Minnesota Twins. He's a guy who's been around, Jose, 36 years old. He played in AAA last year in the Rangers system.
Oh, brilliant play considering that he was respecting also Maben's speed, and he was actually about a step or two in front of the cut of the grass in the back of the infield and still took a very good angle. Get the ball, secure it, get on his feet, and fire away.
So here's Cole Calhoun. And they do have a shift on with three infielders on the right side. First pitch, he takes it for a called strike. Martin Perez, fastball, sinker, slider, curve, good changeup. And he was on the comeback trail of sorts a year ago and ended up pitching nearly 200 innings. Here's a little bloop in his shallow left center. That's going to fall in for a base hit. Well, they were playing Calhoun to pull. He went the opposite way. That ball just barely cleared the infield in the air. So a bloop single. Angels have a base runner for Mike Trout.
Well, that'll work for Cole Calhoun against the lefties, whom he's always handled so well because he's not afraid of getting jammed. He's able to beat some good pitches, lay off some tough pitches outside the zone, especially those hard sliders away. But certainly for Cole, it's a matter of taking pride away and throwing the ego aside and staying in against the lefties.
So here's Trout, and the first pitch out, Mike. He takes that one a little bit low. Yeah. Trout playing in just his second game this spring. First time we saw him a couple days ago. He had a couple of walks.
He worked some counts. He was very happy, telling me after that game the way he saw the baseball and that he did not feel jumpy at all.
Here's the next pitch, and Trout takes that one a little bit low.
Just watch Mike Trout, and something he's trying to implement a little bit more of. And he's always been pretty good at this, but the way he tracks the ball all the way into the catcher's glove when he's taken. There's a couple of pitches he took in that first game he played that you're talking about, Terry. So close, but enough for him to know what the ball is going to be doing at the end in running out of the zone.
Next delivery on Trout, and he lines one into right field. Cole Calhoun is going to hit on to third base. He'll get there without a throw. Trout with a single. Angels have had back-to-back base hits. Calhoun and Trout, and Valbuena will be the next batter.
And when you know what the ball's doing late as it is approaching your hitting zone, you also know how to plan your swing. Stay on it if the ball's cutting, if the ball's going to be tailing away, but for sure that hit is right on that hitting zone. And of course, it's Mike Trout at his best again.
So here's Valbuena. He's batting cleanup today. He's playing first base. Martin Perez, who's pitching for Texas, started their Cactus League opener last Saturday. And that was a game against Kansas City. And he did not figure in the decision in that game, although he did give up 2 runs, 4 hits in just 2 innings. There's a pitch low. 1 ball, no strikes to count. Angels have Danny Espinosa, the switch-hitting second baseman, waiting on deck. He'll be batting right-handed against the Rangers lefty. Here's the next delivery, and Valbuena, left-handed batter, takes that one for a ball. Mentioned We're on the Angels Baseball Radio Network today and also Fox Sports West. And for those of you watching the game on Fox Sports Southwest in North Texas, we want you to know we're the Angels announcers, so we're going to be a little bit partial here, just so everyone's on the same page.
It's all fair game. And to our colleagues, Dave Raymond, CJ Nitkowski, of course, Tom Grieve, Emily Jones, Pudge Rodriguez, all part of that broadcast team. A quick hello and welcome aboard.
We'll try to be as neutral as possible, but we can assure you when the Angels score, we'll be a little bit more excited. 2-1 is the count. But we certainly hope you'll enjoy the action on Fox Sports Southwest today. And there's a shot right up the middle. 3 straight hits here off of Perez. That's an RBI single for Valbuena. And the Angels are on top. It's 1-0.
One lefty following the other and following the same approach. And for Martin Perez, who does have a walk in his game, when he elevates, you got to take advantage of it because, of course, when he's on his game, he's going to stay in there because of the ground balls that he gets. 54% ground ball percentage last year, 7th best in baseball. But as a lefty, especially if he hasn't found that breaking ball, if he hasn't found that sinker, as Calhoun did, as Valbuena did, take advantage of it.
So it brings up Danny Espinosa. And he bats with Trout at second, Valbuena on at first, a run in, 1 out. And here's the pitch. Espinosa looks it over. It's on the outside corner. That's a called strike.
It's a good running fastball there by Perez, and Chirinos giving him a nice target.
Espinosa with that big thick beard of his digs in, and the pitch, and that is a little bit low and away. 1-1 the count.
Impressive exit velocity, Espinosa. When he swings, man, it's a loud sound when he connects. He's not afraid to tell you that the launch angle is very important for him.
24 home runs for him last year with the Washington Nationals. And the next delivery, this is chopped right to short, could be 2, flipped to second, relay to first. It is a double play to end the inning. Was hit right at Bernier, and he fielded his position well this inning here for the Rangers. Angels settle for a run, had 3 hits, and end up leaving 1 runner on base after 1-0 Angels on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. First batter up for the Texas Rangers as we start the second inning is Mike Napoli. He's back with Texas, third go-around with them. Of course, he has ties to both of these teams, and the 1-0. And that's on the outside corner. It's a called strike.
Got a chance to talk extensively with Mike Napoli this morning as he's walking in from the right field corner, something that, of course, he's so familiar with here in this ballpark.
Napoli takes that one for a ball.
Extremely happy to be back in the American League West, and he really wanted to get back to Texas, and there he is.
And there's a big cut and a miss at that pitch. Chased one that looked a little bit high, so the count 2-2. Napoli will swing the bat. He struck out almost 200 times last year, but he also hit 34 homers and drove in over 100 runs. He was with Cleveland a year ago, and he fouls that one back to the screen.
First time in his career with 100-plus RBIs. Just a terrific clubhouse presence and a winner.
Now 35 years old, and the pitch didn't miss by much, a little bit low. So it's a full count on Napoli. He will walk as well. He had 78 walks last year, so he usually has a pretty good eye at the plate. Here's the payoff, and he lifts that one foul back behind the plate and out of play. Napoli was a 17th round pick of the Angels back in 2000.
Still remember him coming in, filling in some games, Terry, in the 8th and 9th inning as a minor leaguer.
Yeah. Angels drafted him right out of high school. He swings at that one, stays alive, fouling it back. Angels with the red tops, white pants, and the Rangers have the blue tops, gray pants. And the next pitch, this is a pop-up on the right side. Espinosa is a few feet back on the outfield grass. The Angels second baseman retires. Napoli easy out, one gone. And the batter now will be Rougned Odor, the second baseman for Texas. This copyrighted broadcast presented by authority of Angels baseball may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the expressed written consent of Angels baseball. Odor, the batter. And the next delivery lines one into right field. That's going to drop in for a base hit. So one out single, the first hit of the ball game for the Texas Rangers.
Always feisty, fiery Rougned Odor, who led their ball club with 33 home runs last year. Also keep an eye on him as we've seen so much running here in the early going in the spring. 14 stolen bases for Rougned last year.
At the plate now is Joey Gallo, and he was moving off the plate on that pitch, but it was in there for a called strike.
Is it the time for Joey Gallo, Terry? They're hoping it is.
Tremendous power, big left-handed batter. Also a guy that's been a big swing and miss guy in the past.
A lot of that.
Yep.
In big trouble last year when he got called up to the big leagues. 17 games, 25 at bats, 19 strikeouts. But when he connects, it's going to go a country mile.
Here's the 0-2, and he swings and misses. That one struck him out on 3 pitches. So that's a third strikeout for Jesse Chavez. 2 are gone here in the second inning. And Robinson Chirinos, the catcher for the Rangers, will be the next batter.
Outstanding split finger there from Jesse Chavez. Once again, quite happy to be wearing this Angels uniform. Ended the season with the Dodgers. He's been a starter. He's been a reliever. And is looking forward to being part of this rotation. Local product.
Here's the pitch, and that one is high. Snap throw to first, and trying to get back is Odor, and the tag beats him to the bag. So Carlos Perez with the toss up to the first baseman, Luis Balbuena, and late getting back is Odor. The inning is over. It'll go 2-3 to end the inning. Bottom of the second is coming up. 1-0 Angels on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Fans, don't forget you can host a business function or celebrate a special occasion in your own private suite at the Big A. Suite rentals offer all-inclusive food and beverage packages. Visit angels.com/suites to reserve your suite today. And the first batter up for the Angels as we begin the bottom of the second inning is Jeffrey Marte. And he's taking the first pitch. It was low for ball one. Marte, Maldonado, and Perez, the first three up for the Angels in the second. 1-0 Halo lead, and the pitch low. Count even. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. Very sunny day today here in the Valley. Not a cloud to be seen right now, not around the ballpark anyway. And here comes the next pitch on the 2-0. That's outside, and it's now a 3-0 count.
As breezy as it was this morning, it was blowing into the booth actually, and cool wind. Pretty quiet right now.
Yeah, wind has died down. Flag out in center field, barely moving, and the pitch, and that's a called strike on the outside corner. So 3-1. Marte getting a start today at third base for the Angels. And here's the pitch. That one is chopped on the third base side, stopped by Ibanez for Texas, and he will throw out Jeffrey Marte. So one gone, and mention Marte getting the start at third base, and there's a reason for that.
Yunel Escobar is actually heading back to South Florida for a good cause. He is taking his test to become a U.S. citizen. And Mike Socha addressed the issue this morning, saying how proud he is, how much studying has had to be involved with here in spring training, and at times even being tested by his teammates on some of those things he's going to have to answer to. So he will be back in a couple of days and hopefully back in action on Saturday. So wishing all the best to Yunel Escobar and his step towards becoming a U.S. citizen.
Yep, Escobar born in Cuba. And here's the next delivery. That's a little bit low on Martin Maldonado.
In fact, Mike Socha was saying, I'm so proud of him because he understands, as Yunel has told him the story about how he got to the United States and what a tough going that was.
Here's the 1-1 pitch, and that one is fouled back over by the batter waiting on deck, Carlos Perez.
Mike Socha knows a lot about that, Terry, of course, considering, with Kendrys Morales. And Kendrys Morales, who 12 different tries before he finally made it out of Cuba.
Case of Yunel Escobar, he fled Cuba with about 35 people on a 25-foot boat. That was back in October of the year 2004. And that one is fouled off over on the left side. So 1 ball and 2 strikes the count on Maldonado.
Have been telling me how nervous, Terry, he had been very anxious throughout the spring, to the point where he had a teacher that went over and kind of preparing him to go through the process.
Prep him, yeah. There's a good breaking ball that's cut on and missed. Maldonado is a strikeout victim, and that is the first one of the day for Martin Perez. So 2 up, 2 away for the Angels. Here's Carlos Perez.
Great feel for the off speed. It is something that Martin Perez will have, and that was a nice and easy flow towards the plate, and just making everything look like a fastball with outstanding arm speed there.
Martin Perez, good off-speed pitches, the curve and the changeup, and here's the first delivery on Carlos Perez, and he is taking that one. It's in there, strike 1. Here's the 0-1. Pop-up foul over on the right side. That's going to get back and out of play. Martin Perez had the Tommy John left elbow surgery. That was back around May of 2014. And so he's had to come back from that. Did make 33 starts last year. Seems to be recovered from that injury. Here's the 0-2, and a little poke into shallow right center. That's going to fall in for a base hit. 2-out hit. That's one thing we've seen a lot from the Angels here in the first week of games in the Cactus League, the Angels have been getting a lot of 2-out hits.
Hardest hit ball so far, and the ones that Paris has allowed is Mike Trout's laser to right field. But beyond that, Calhoun's not hard hit. Balbuena for sure not, and this one here in Carlos Perez. So the Angels fighting off pitches and staying inside the ball and being a little bit late. Not a bad thing here so far.
So the batter now is Cliff Pennington. He is the 9-hole hitter, the Angels shortstop this afternoon. Andrelton Simmons getting a day off, and the delivery, that's a breaking pitch low.
Andrelton Simmons on his way to Korea. Joined team from the Netherlands.
One ball, no strikes to count. And the next pitch, and that is a little high and away for a ball, so it goes to 2-0. Around the infield for Texas, they have the former Angel Mike Napoli at first. Rougned Odor is the second baseman. Andy Ibanez, young player, at third. Doug Bernier is the shortstop. They have Joey Gallo in left. Carlos Gomez in center. Shin-Soo Choo in right. Robinson Chirinos catching, and Nomar Mazara is the DH. Perez with the next delivery, and it's popped foul over on the first base side. Running out of room is Napoli. Out of his reach, a foul ball. 2-1 is the count.
Had a chance to visit Terry, the brilliant Peter Gammons, who was visiting camp here today, and we were talking about Team Netherlands in the infield, and your friend Hensley Mullins is managing that team.
All right.
But they have Didi Gregorius, Jonathan Scope, Jurickson Profar, Simmons, and Xander Bogaerts.
That's some solid infield right there. There's a pitch a little bit low.
And as Mullins was making calls around and say, hey, I have all these guys available, he would kind of ask each one of those guys, you know, what's your preference? Where should I play? They all say, here's the one thing we know for sure. Andrelton Simmons is playing shortstop. They all said the same thing. He goes, the rest of us, you insert us wherever you can.
Mm-hmm. Here's the 3-1 pitch. Pennington fouling that one off the end of the bat, back behind the plate. The Netherlands had a little bit of success the last time the WBC was played.
Well, their biggest success is when they eliminated the Dominican a few years back.
Right.
Beating them twice. Profar from the Rangers will be part of that team, supposedly play some outfield.
Yeah, Texas has a lot of players playing for, that will be playing for various teams in the WBC this spring. Pitch is high on a 3-2, and that was nowhere close, ball 4. So the Angels have a little something brewing here with 2 outs, 2 on, runners at first and second, and Cameron Maben will be the next batter. When the various WBC rosters were announced, the Texas Rangers had 8 players, at least initially, selected to play for various countries. Robinson Chirinos, who's catching today, slated to play for Venezuela. And of course, their #1 catcher, Jonathan Lucroy, is going to be a catcher for Team USA in the WBC. Martin Perez, who's pitching, will pitch game 2 for Venezuela.
That's right. Felix Hernandez will start game 1. Martin Perez game 2. Rougned Odor was recently added to that roster.
So they had a little meeting at the mound. That's wrapped up. 2 outs, 2 on. Angels up 1-0 in the bottom of the second. Next pitch, it's chopped on an easy hop to Odor. He flips to Bernier, the shortstop, covering second, and the fielder's choice 4-6 will end the inning. That'll do it for the Angels. A little bit of a threat, but no runs. We're headed now to the third. It's still 1-0 Angels on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Third inning we go. 1-0 Angels. Angels have a run on 4 hits. The Rangers no runs, 1 hit. And the Angels will make a pitching change. Big right-hander Alex Meyer will be taking over for Jesse Chavez. And this will be the first time we've seen Meyer this spring. Chavez went 2 scoreless innings, allowing 1 hit. Didn't walk any and had 3 strikeouts. Good job by Jesse. He retired 5 of the 6 that he faced. And at the plate is Chirinos. He was batting when Odor ended up getting picked off first base on that snap throw from Carlos Perez that ended last inning for Texas. First pitch in there from Meyer. And the 0-1. And boy, that was a wild pitch right there. That bounces back to the backstop. It was nowhere close.
Good to see him, Alex Meyer, on the mound. Boy, he is tall. You just don't know where the ball's going to come out of. And Mike Scioscia pointing to early in the spring how he's been able to adjust his arm slot and has found one consistency, at least so far in the sessions he's had, and throwing strikes.
Next delivery, and here's a little pop out to the shortstop, Cliff Pennington. He will put that one away. The bat ends up flying out there. Most of it, little portion of it, ended up at home plate. Cracked bat off the bat of Chirinos for the soft line out number 1. Fans, don't forget to join the Angels for spring training at Tempe Diablo Stadium on March the 24th. The Angels will host the Seattle Mariners that day here in Arizona. Fans will have a chance to enjoy a post-game concert by Gavin DeGraw. Visit angels.com/promotions to purchase your tickets today. First one here on Bernier, missed. Wind picking up a little bit. And the next delivery, that one is ball 2. 2 balls and no strikes. Here's Meyer's third pitch in this at bat against Bernier, and that one misses. So the count goes to 3-0.
Meyer's fastball naturally runs, and the Angels are trying to find that perfect spot on the rubber, on which side to make sure everything that he throws out there, and it's pretty impressive velocity-wise. He's 97-98. He'll live at 95-96, but there's consistency in the command. Terry, at least the health issues are behind him. Any of them affected him early in his career with the Twins? But boy, he's got a good arm.
That pitch is inside on the 3-1. It's ball 4. Those two that just matched up, Meyer and Bernier, with the tie-in, former Minnesota Twins players. So a 1-out walk. Here's Andy Ibanez. Young player, 23 years old, Double-A last year, hit .285, 13 homers, drove in 66 runs. And here's the first pitch. That one is inside. That's going to get a visit out to the mound by the catcher Carlos Perez as he walks the baseball back to Meyer.
Meyer, of course, part of that trade that sent Hector Santiago to the Twins and brought Meyer and Ricky Nolasco.
So that meeting wraps up. Andy Ibanez, who's batting, mentioned young player. He came from Cuba. He was a very successful player in Cuba. And boy, he took such a big swing right there. He fell down on that one. Landed on his backside. He swung so hard, missed that pitch.
One thing I've noticed here with Ibanez up, with all the moving parts going towards you at 6'9", stature and mid to upper 90s fastball. Watch his front foot, Terry, and it's one where does not want to stay in that area for too long. He's been bailing out.
Yeah, not a real comfortable at bat. There's a pickoff toss over to first, and hustling back goes Bernier.
Can't blame him.
Texas Rangers signed this batter, Andy Ibanez, back in 2015. Got a signing bonus of over $1.5 million when he fled Cuba. And the next pitch, he takes that one a little bit low. 2-1 is the count. They have Ibanez playing third base today. He's played some second base in the past as well. Here's the next pitch, and that one is low and outside. So Meyer, who really throughout his career has had some command issues, walked the last batter, and now he's fallen behind 3-1 here on Ibanez. Infield at double play depth. Next pitch, and that one framed by Carlos Perez, but a little bit wide. Ball 4. Back-to-back walks.
See how happy Ibanez was to get out of there? He threw that bat so quick. You got to give it to him. Good job. Not swinging the pitches out of the zone.
So Charlie Nagy, the Angels pitching coach, is going to go out and have a word with Alex Meyer. The command, as I mentioned, it's always been a problem for Alex Meyer. There's no doubt he has the stuff, Jose, but whether or not he can control it's another story. He can top out close to 100 miles per hour with the fastball. He has a good curveball, throw a changeup, has the power arm. But again, you even look at the numbers last year between Minnesota and the Angels. 17 walks in just 25 1/3 innings. And he's walked 2 of the first 3 here today. So here's Carlos Gomez, Texas leadoff man, and he chases one, going down to a knee, swinging at that pitch low and away for strike 1.
That shows a lot. Having some command issues with his fastball. And then the visit from Charles Nagy, the pitching coach, and Carlos Perez, the catcher. And what does he go to? Let's go to the breaking ball. And Carlos Gomez is going, for a guy having some command issues, where's my fastball? It's a good job of pitching. Good sequence to start with.
Alex Meyer, former first-round pick back in 2011. Washington Nationals. Here's a ball chopped on the right side. The flip to second for 1. The relay to first. That's a double play, and that'll get Meyer out of trouble. The inning is over. Nicely turned by the Angels. A twin killing will end the Texas threat here in the 3rd. Bottom of the inning coming up. Angels still up by a run. 1-0 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Here in the bottom of the 3rd, Cole Calhoun will be the first batter up, and Martin Perez still pitching for Texas. This will be his 3rd inning. Calhoun with a single his first time up. He scored the game's only run. Angels have 4 hits. The Rangers have 1. It's 1-0 Halos.
Martin Perez getting ready for his start against Italy. in the World Baseball Classic. That's pitch number 35 there, so 34 pitches through the first 2 innings.
First pitch was in there on Cole Calhoun. And here comes the next pitch. He shows signs of bunting. They do have a shift on, and that pitch is one that bounces by everybody back to the backstop.
I was asking Mike Scioscia about that this morning. A guy like Cole Calhoun, Terry, that's a free 4 or 5 base hits right there for you with a shift. And Mike Scioscia said, well, there's times when, yes, we want him. We want to encourage him to do that, and they have been working out in the backfields.
Next delivery on Cole Calhoun. He's taking that one and misses ball 2, 2-1.
Scioscia also said there's times when there's no need for us to waste his swing. But certainly, same thing with Valbuena. Valbuena has already shown bunt twice against the shift. Has fouled it off a couple of times. But why not?
And the next delivery, he cracks his bat and bounces the ball softly to the second baseman. Odor's playing on the outfield grass. He fields that one cleanly and throws out Cole Calhoun. There's one away. Mike Trout will be the next batter. You mentioned Martin Perez for Texas will be facing Italy in a first-round game of the World Baseball Classic. And one of the pitchers on Team Italy, always a favorite of ours, Jose, that's going to be Pat Venditti.
One of your favorites for sure.
The switch pitcher.
One glove.
Unbelievable. He's with Seattle, and Venditti, Italian heritage, so he will be representing that country in the World Baseball Classic.
Francisco Cervelli on that team.
Yeah, a guy we saw yesterday for the Cubs, John Andrioli, an outfielder, will be on that club as well. And here's one that's lifted down the right side and tight to the line. That is a foul ball. Not by much. So Trout bidding for his second hit of the day. Fouls it off the opposite way, and the count on Mike 0-2.
Or that wind is blowing out as it usually is. That's a fair ball. It's going to bring it right back into play.
It almost looked like it was about to hit the line down there. The right fielder, Shin-Soo Choo, was not in real serious pursuit there. I think he thought all along it was going to be foul, and it was just barely foul. So here's the 0-2 on Trout. That's a fastball high and away. Well, Bueno waiting on deck. He's driven in the game's only run. It's 1-0 Angels, bottom of the third. And the next pitch, that's drilled into center field. Gomez gets twisted around. That ball's over his head, and the ball's all the way out to the warning track in center. Trout will cruise into second base, and he has a double. So Mike Trout has been up 4 times this spring, twice in this game, 2 times in the first game he played in a couple days ago, and no one has gotten him out yet.
Just like the regular season, when he is guessing off speed and keeps that front shoulder lined up, he barely ever misses those pitches. I mean, he is one of the best guess hitters there are for that reason. I mean, and the difference is he's Mike Trout. He's so gifted, but Terry, when he guesses and gets those breaking balls, he dips down that front shoulder, and let me tell you, he lets it fly.
So Valbuena has a chance to get another RBI here. He bats with 1 out, Trout at second.
Now, to counteract my point, there's times when he guesses wrong, and he dips a little bit more on that front shoulder, trying to stay in, and he gets beat by the fastball.
First one on Valbuena. He was thinking of pulling the trigger on that one, ends up taking it, and it did miss for ball 1.
We saw Mike Trout much more aggressive on the base paths last year. More attempts of stealing third base. Ron Renicky, a huge factor in getting him the confidence back to start running.
Next one on Valbuena. He swings and misses that one. Count even 1-1.
If you watch Renicky at third base, he is not missing a beat. He's quite aware with his verbal signs and obviously with the gestures as to where the middle infielders are. Trout knows the only guy he's got to worry about right now is a shortstop who's very close on him.
And here's the next pitch. That's fouled back by Valbuena. So ball and 2 strikes. A little easier to try and steal third base if you have good speed and you're a runner at second with a left-hander on the mound.
Yes, it is. They're a little more deliberate when it comes down to the view they have off of you at second base than right-handers are.
There's the 1-2 on Valbuena. He cuts at it, pops it up foul over on the left side, backing out of play. The Angels homestand here in Cactus League play will continue tomorrow as the Angels will greet the San Francisco Giants. Ricky Nolasco will make his first spring start for the Angels. Angels start a stretch here today where 5 of the next 6 games will be here at Tempe Diablo. Here's the next pitch. It's bounced back to the mound. Perez thought about going to third. Now turns around and fires to first base. Gets the out on Valbuena. Trout moves up a base. He's at third with 2 outs, and Espinosa will be the next hitter. Martin Perez acted like he wanted to try and get Trout at third, but ended up taking a long look and then wheeled around and went to first base. Well, looks like the Rangers are going to make a pitching change here, so that'll be it for Perez. They will go to the bullpen. We have a break in the action. We'll be back with more Angels baseball here in the bottom of the third in just a moment. Halos have a 1-0 lead on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Angels' third inning continues with 2 outs and Trout at third base. Danny Espinosa, the batter, against the new pitcher. And up from their minor league camp, Austin Pettibone, a right-hander. A-ball a year ago, 1-2 record. Appeared in 40 games. Averaged better than a strikeout an inning. ERA was high, however, over 5. And he gets ready to face Espinosa, who's trying to drive in a 2-out run, and the first pitch, that one is outside for a ball.
So Terry, 2 Orange County kids, because Pettibone is from Placentia, went to Esperanza High, and he's also a gaucho from UC Santa Barbara.
There you go.
He is a sidewinder at his best, man. He's coming from the third baseline at you.
And the next pitch, that's fouled back. Let's pause for stations to identify themselves on the Angels Baseball Radio Network. Terry Smith, Jose Mota, and our producer-engineer Jorge Sevilla with you here from Tempe Diablo. Angels batting in the third, up 1-0 on Texas. And that's a pitch that misses, and the count goes to 2 balls and 1 strike.
Much easier for left-handers to see the ball off of Pettibone than right-handers with that angle that he has. Coming right at you from the right-hander's batter's box, but into you as a lefty.
Texas Rangers last year won the season series against the Angels, won 10 out of the 19 matchups against the Angels. But in the last 3 years, the Angels have had good success against Texas, 35-22 against them over the last 3 years. A team that the Rangers have really feasted on in the AL West the last couple of years, the Houston Astros. They were 15-4 against Houston last year, and they're 28-10 against them.
They've done a great job
last
Terry.
2 years.
In big series, when it comes down to head-to-head, they have done a good job getting after them and beating them.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why the Rangers have won the division the last 2 years.
Jeff Bannister continues to do a great job in keeping that team united. He's got great leaders in that clubhouse, but boy, give Banny a lot of credit. 95-67 last year, the most wins in the American League.
Rangers have won 90-plus games 5 of the last 7 seasons. And the payoff pitch. This is chopped softly on the right side. Could be trouble charging, fielding, throwing, and making a nice play is Odor, the second baseman, as they nip Espinosa, and that saves a run. The inning is over. So the Angels leave Trout at third. He had a 1-out double in the inning. We've completed 3, and the 4th inning is coming up here at Tempe Diablo. Angels up 1-0 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Shin-Soo Choo will be the first batter here for Texas as we move to the top of the 4th inning. 1-0 Angels on top. Alex Meyer is going to continue out there on the mound. And he was aided by a big double play ball last inning. Got out of a threat. And here's the first one on Choo. That's high and away for ball 1. Meyer ended up walking 2 of the 4 that he faced last inning, but did not allow any runs. Here's his next pitch. Cut and a miss by Shin-Soo Choo.
Does registering fairly high right there. So Matt Wise, who was one of the Angels instructors in the minor leagues, spent a lot of time with Meyer in the offseason. in trying to just keep it a little bit more compact with those moving parts that he has, his height and direction, placement over the rubber, arm slot, and the finish, which is very important. The finish is quite important for him. Naturally, the ball runs, it'll sink. And even Carlos Perez and Martin Maldonado, Terry, were telling me he's tough to catch. Throws hard, and the ball absolutely runs everywhere.
And on the next delivery, Chu tried to hold up on that one. He thought it might have been a little bit low. He is out looking, and that is out number 1. So the first strikeout for Meyer. Shin-Soo Choo didn't look real comfortable in the batter's box during that at bat.
It's a good job right there. Once again, Carlos insisting on sometimes getting away from the fastball. He went right back to a very tight slider to get the lefty out, which is a huge step for Meyer, and trusting not only the curveball but using that slider against the hitters on both sides of the batter's box.
So here is Mazzara, another left-handed batter. They have 4 of them in the lineup, and they're kind of grouped together, the 2 and 3 hitters, Chu and Mazzara, and then the 5 and 6 hitters, Odor and Gallo, all swinging left-handed. Here's the next pitch. That's fouled back behind the plate. Mazzara ended up being one of the better rookie hitters in the American League last year.
Made his debut against the Angels at the Big A on April 20th, and all because, Terry, the day before, Shin-Soo Choo had gotten hurt during stretching at Angel Stadium. So Choo getting hurt the first time last year opened the door for Mazzara, who for a long time was the leading candidate for the Rookie of the Year in the American League, until the league caught up with him, and he faded and tailed off a little bit second half of the season. But certainly, for sure, he put together those numbers. He had a very solid season.
Swings at that one and fouls it back behind the plate, so the count level on him. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Hope you're enjoying the action today wherever you're listening or watching. We're on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. I want to say hi to those tuned in on Fox Sports Southwest today. Here's the 2-2. Grounded right out to short. Gobbled up there by Pennington. His throw is in plenty of time to get Mazzara, and that's the second out. Mike Napoli will be the next batter for Texas.
Well, Cliff Pennington will be seeing a lot of action at shortstop, and hopefully he'll stay together, stay healthy, become the dependable backup infielder the Angels were looking for, and sign him to a 2-year deal. This is his second year, but a lot of issues with his legs last year. That opened the door to Gregorio Petit, who did a great job for the Angels filling in for Simmons once he went down. Petit now in camp with the Toronto Blue Jays.
First one on Napoli was taking a miss for ball 1. It's 1 ball, no strikes. And the pitch, that's low and away. Mike Napoli has had to deal with a number of injury issues over the years. Hip condition. He's had back problems. He's had a problem with his ring finger on the disabled list back in 2014 because of that toe problem. And of course, he also had to deal with sleep apnea,
which is the most scary thing he's ever dealt with.
Right. Here's the 2-1. Popped in the air on the right side. The second baseman Espinosa on the outfield grass circles under and makes the grab on that one, and that's a clean inning right there for Alex Meyer. So he's probably done for the day. His first spring training outing, pretty good, as he ends up retiring the final 4 batters in a row. Bottom of the 4th is coming up. 1-0 Angels on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Angels getting ready to bat and face a new pitcher for the Texas Rangers as we head to the bottom of the fourth inning. Angels up 1-0. A.J. Griffin is on the hill, and his first pitch, that's in there for a called strike. Couple of other changes for Texas. They have Ronald Guzman playing first base, and they have Jared Hoying in right field. Here's the next pitch. That one is low and inside. Want to remind you the bottom of the fourth inning. It's being brought to you today by our friends at Rotolo Chevrolet in Fontana. Rotolo Chevrolet is pursuing excellence every day. Visit them at rotolo.com. That's rotolo.com. Here's a check swing by Marte on that one, and the count on Jeffrey. 2 balls, 1 strike, I believe. Here's the next pitch. This is bounced by the mound out near second base. Gobbled up by Odor. His throw in time to the new first baseman Guzman. That's a first out.
A.J. Griffin, the San Diego area, is one of 11 different starting pitchers used by the Rangers last season. And the only 2 to make 30 or more starts, Cole Hamels and Martin Perez. Griffin made 23 starts for the Rangers, 7-4 record. ERA jumped to 5.07 after getting out to a very strong start.
A.J. Griffin was a closer in college at the University of San Diego.
When healthy, he could bring it, and he's back and getting back into form after a serious arm injury just a couple of years ago. They sidelined him. He had to fight and make the team here last year.
It's a guy who has had some issues with the home run ball in the past. And last year he gave up 28 in just 119 innings. He gave up 36 home runs a few seasons back when he was with Oakland.
And that's pitching half of the games in Oakland. Just imagine.
Here's the next delivery, and this is a lazy fly ball lifted into right center. Battling the sun out there. Under and making the grab is Carlos Gomez. So Maldonado is set down. 2 are gone. Carlos Perez will be the next batter. Griffin replacing Austin Pettibone, who got the final out against the Angels last inning. The starter, Martin Perez, went 2 2/3 for Texas today. Gave up 5 hits, a run earned. He issued a walk, struck out 1. Griffin is set, and the pitch. A little low and away on Carlos Perez, who singled his first time up.
Griffin, totally a fly ball pitcher. About 70% of the balls put in play are in the air against him. And that, of course, Terry, leads to all those home runs that he allows.
And the pitch, there's one that's hit pretty well into left field. Backpedaling under and making the grab a few feet from the rim of the track is Gallo. That will do it for the Angels, who go down 1-2-3 here in the 4th. We move to the 5th inning. The Angels up by a run against Texas, 1-0 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Angels bring in young right-hander Keenan Middleton. So Alex Meyer's day is done. He worked 2 innings just like Jesse Chavez. And Meyer in his 2 innings of work did not allow any hits or runs. He walked 2, struck out 1. We've seen Middleton once this spring. And he was impressive in his first outing. Middleton last year in the Angels system, 46 games, a 1-2 record with 8 saves and a ERA of a bit over 3.
Just keep an eye on this young man who goes east, can really bring the baseball.
Here's his first pitch, and that one is skied foul by Odor down the right side. It's backing out of play.
In fact, Odor was so ready for it, Terry. He was a little bit ahead on a mid-90s fastball. Middleton's light twist, and he turns his back to the hitter. Well, that's the way he's told me to go out there and keep his balance a little bit better.
Here's the next pitch, and that's a fastball that misses high. Middleton spent time at Inland Empire, Arkansas, and Salt Lake a year ago. Former 3rd-round pick of the Angels in 2013. He has a very loose, easy delivery out there, and has what scouts would refer to as raw stuff. He has a power arm.
Every eye on him every step of the way. Full-time reliever now, and wherever he was, PFP, throwing bullpens, throwing to live hitters, staff and front office personnel readily available to make an evaluation.
Next delivery, Odor checking the swing, and they say he was holding. We saw Middleton pitch in the game against the Oakland A's, and that was on Sunday. And in that ball game, he had a 1-2-3 inning. Here's the 2-2. And Odor checks. Did he go around? No, says the third base umpire.
Really good to see with Middleton, like we saw with Alex Meyer, is incorporate that breaking ball and trust it and work on it. And Carlos Perez, one of the best back there, insisting on that. So that's great. Even with the good fastballs they have.
Here's one chopped foul by Odor on the right side. So the count, 3 balls, 2 strikes. And here's the next pitch, and that one is high. So leadoff walk. It's the 3rd walk issued by Angels pitching today. Odor is aboard. Gallo will be the next batter.
It's a great job by Rougned Odor in making the young man work.
Fans, don't forget to join the Angels on April 7th and 8th for opening weekend. The Angels will take on the Seattle Mariners. Fans in attendance will receive a wall calendar courtesy of U.S. Bank while supplies last. For more information, visit angels.com/promotions. And the next delivery, that's inside on Joey Gallo.
And Joey Gallo's got one thing in mind. He will love to run into one of these high fastballs. We have seen Gallo hit some monster shots here before in exhibition play.
Here's the pitch, and this one he gets under and skies it in the air infield. This is way up there. Espinosa, the second baseman, still on the dirt, circles under and makes the grab. Couldn't hit one much higher than that. And that is one gone. Chirinos the next batter.
Absorbed by the beard. That ball got lost in that beard from Danny Espinosa. Man, that's a thick one.
Yeah, Napoli's got a pretty good beard. So does Matt Shoemaker. But that beard on Danny Espinosa, it is a sight to be seen.
He thought Shoemaker had a thick one.
Yeah. Here's the pitch. That's a high fastball, real high fastball, and it had a little extra on it. Talking about Middleton, he can top out around 102 as far as that fastball is concerned. We don't have a radar gun to monitor his speed here today.
And he's been trying to, they're trying to convince him 102 is not where you need to live, or 98. You can live at 96, 97 easily.
Runner goes, pitches a ball. The throw bounces in. The tag is a little bit late by Espinosa. That's going to be a stolen base for Odor. So Odor was picked off first base on a snap throw by Carlos Perez back in the second inning. Steals second this time.
Pesky Rougned Odor starts with a walk after a long fly ball. Settles down, has a great at-bat leading off the inning. Now serving as a good distraction for the young pitcher on the mound. He really is one of my favorites to watch in that field. Rugnet. How many Rugnets are there? Like 7?
It's his brother's name, isn't it? There's a pitch that comes in and gets a piece of Chirinos hit by the pitch. So that puts another base runner on, a walk and now a hit batter here in the inning with 1 away, and Doug Bernier will be the next batter.
Now for Chirinos, anything near that left forearm, quite scary because he did suffer a fracture, in fact, against the Angels in that bat over at the Big A. Originally not diagnosed, and he continued the at-bat, but you can see the swings he was taking. Terry, you recall that game back home?
It was Garrett Richards who hit him.
Yep.
And there's a pitch a little bit low. So it's 1 ball, no strikes. Bernier walked his first time up, cuts and misses that pitch, and it's a 1-1 count.
Once again, good pattern being followed here by Angels young pitchers, getting back into counts with something secondary.
Middleton checking Odor, the lead runner at second. Now time requested by the batter Bernier. He gets it from the home plate umpire Jim Everett.
Something for pitchers to remember and to keep the formula alive. Pitch to get ahead in the count, pitch to get back into counts, and pitch to finish somebody off. At some point, you're going to need to get all those 3 steps.
Here's one that's hit and lined down the left field side. It's going to roll all the way down into the corner. 1 run will score. They're going to wave another runner home, and the relay to the plate's going to be late. 2 are in for Texas, and hustling over to third base, the batter Bernier, and the Rangers have taken a 2-1 lead. It seemed like Cliff Pennington, the cutoff man, kind of double clutched once he got the throw in from Maben, and that cost him a shot to hit the go-ahead runner as Chirinos, the catcher, scores all the way from first base.
Yeah, Pennington had trouble gripping the baseball once he got it out of his glove. The double clutch was good enough for third base coach Tony Beasley to say, keep going. There's no way he's going to throw you out. Nice piece of hitting there by Bernier.
And at the plate now is Andy Ibanez, young player who takes the first pitch, and a miss for ball 1.
And the pesky Rangers are putting it together here and letting the young pitcher know it doesn't matter how hard you throw.
There's a pitch low and outside.
Bernier went down and got a breaking ball. It was breaking right over the plate. Nice pass right through the zone. Good base running as he followed that throw home and made it to third base.
Here's the delivery, and it's fouled back behind the plate. 2-1 to count on Ibanez, their 9-hole hitter who walked his first time up. So the walk and the hit batter in the inning have really cost Middleton. Those 2 base runners coming in to score on what will go down as a 2-run double for Bernier, even though he ends up at third. And now the count's 3 balls and 1 strike on Ibanez. Middleton getting ready. Pitch number 20 since the inning got underway. That one is fouled back behind the plate. So do it again. A full count, 3-2. Angels infield is in, trying to cut down that runner at the plate. Here's a swing and a fly ball that's lifted into left field. Maben is circling under. He will make the grab. The runner bluffs a tag at third base, Bernier, and then goes back to the bag. So not deep enough for Texas to get in that base runner. That'll be the second out. And Carlos Gomez slated to be the next hitter.
As a natural center fielder, Cameron Maben made it look easy, and of course he gets behind the baseball. He knows he's going to have some momentum coming forward. Maybe with another base runner you try, depending on the situation of the game, but for sure Maben did a great job getting behind the baseball and carrying on and hitting the cutoff man.
Gomez, the leadoff man for Texas, 0 for 2 day. And the first pitch, he chops that one foul right into his dugout on the third base side.
It's quite a turnaround for Carlos Gomez with Houston. 210 average, 5 home runs, 29 RBIs. Well, the Rangers, he ended up hitting .284 with 8 home runs and 24 RBI.
And the next pitch, he swings at that one, fouls it off on the right side.
Very happy to be back with a 1-year deal as a free agent. But the most impressive jump for Carlos was the revamping of that swing. How comfortable he felt with what the Rangers were doing with him. And it showed also not just in those numbers that I mentioned, but also the on-base percentage. 362 on base with Texas, 272 with Houston.
Here he pops one in the air into shallow right center. Espinosa, the second baseman, is going to call everyone off, make the grab, and that'll end the inning. So they don't get that runner in from third, but they got 2 runs earlier in the inning, and they did it with only 1 hit in the inning. Bottom of the 5th is next, and right now 2-1 Texas on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Cliff Pennington is the batter for the Angels as we start the bottom of the 5th. 2-1 Rangers on top. And Griffin still on the mound for Texas. Delivers the first pitch low and inside. The Rangers have made 1 change out in the outfield. Jose Cardona is now in there, and that means that Carlos Gomez, who made the final out top of the inning, has left the ball game. Next pitch, it's swinging a miss for a strike. 1-1 on Pennington, who walked his first time up.
Go is gone, Terry. Carlos Gomez.
And the next pitch, another swing and a miss. So 1 ball, 2 strikes. Infield is back. The outfield is playing straight away. Not a whole lot of shifting by Texas in this game. They've done it with Cole Calhoun batting. And the next pitch on Pennington, that's a low. In fact, I don't know that we've seen, for the most part, a whole lot of shifting in the first 5 games of the Cactus League.
We've seen very little,
occasionally,
from what we're going to see in the regular season. Honestly.
Right. Here's one lined into right. That's going to fall in front of the right fielder Hoying for a base hit. So a 2-strike single for Pennington. He's on for the 2nd time today. Angels have a base runner on. Hit number 6 in the ball game now for the Halos. And here's Maben.
I'll tell you what we've seen a lot of is a lot of running. Base running attempts. Stealing attempts. Mike Scioscia with Cameron Maben. Here's a great combination. Got a guy like A.J. Griffin, very efficient in that first inning throwing strikes. Made only 10 pitches. Why not put a play here?
Here's the pitch on Maben. And that's taken, and it's in there for a strike. Maben has the uniform pants pulled up so high that the amount of his red socks you're seeing kind of equals the amount of the white pants you're seeing.
Well, he's gone Hunter Pence. Hunter Pence is the one that originated going above the knees.
Yeah. Those pants look like they're tailor-made for him, that look. And here's the pitch. He chops that one foul over on the left side. Of course, the one thing that became so common, and for the most part it still is, players wearing the pants all the way down where they're almost scraping the ground. This is taking it to a different level here. Quite an extreme as far as the look.
Yeah, so low, in fact, that there's some straps now made for your pants to wrap around your shoes.
Yeah, they go underneath the bottom of your spikes. That's right. There's one that's tipped foul right by the plate. 0-2 is the count. We'll check some action out around the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League in just a moment. Diamondbacks are playing the White Sox today. It's 2-1 Arizona in the fourth. Cubs and Royals in the sixth inning. Chicago leading that one 3-1. Reds and Brewers are in the bottom of the fifth, 2-2. Seattle trailing the Indians 1-0. That's in the top of the fifth as Maben swings and misses. That 0-2 pitch struck him out. So that's the first out and the first strikeout for A.J. Griffin.
Outstanding job by Griffin in setting off the timing of Maben with the off speed. Well, great field, great separation with his fastball and with his big curveball.
The Padres have a split squad day, and they're leading the A's in one of their two games, 2-0 in the sixth, and trailing the Rockies in their other game, 3-1 in the fifth. Here's a bunt that is fouled off by Cole Calhoun. Fouled it off over on the third base side. In the Grapefruit League in Florida, the Braves and Yankees will play later tonight. The Red Sox are trailing the Orioles, and that game is now a final. 12-5, Baltimore beat Boston. Marlins beat the Astros 9-5. Cardinals beat the Mets 6-1. Rays and Phillies played to a 5-5 tie, 9-inning game. Pirates over the Twins 3-1. Nationals beat the Tigers 9-1. Tigers over the Blue Jays 5-4 as a pickoff toss the first, and Pennington back. And one other game in the Cactus League will be under the lights tonight in Scottsdale, and it'll be the Dodgers and the Giants. Night game in the Cactus League.
Gotta love those.
Couple of rivals squaring off there.
That's a big audience right there waiting for that one.
And speaking of the Giants, they will be taking on the Angels here tomorrow afternoon. Here's the pitch. That's low and outside. Ricky Nolasco against Tyler Beede, who is a former first-round pick of the Giants and might be their best pitching prospect. We'll see him tomorrow. Cole Calhoun has had one of the 6 Angel hits, would like another one here. The count's 1-1, and the next pitch, that's high and outside. 2 balls, 1 strike. A.J. Griffin, who is on the hill here for the Texas Rangers, working in his second inning. And the next pitch, there is a bunt. It's pushed out in front of the plate. It's fielded by Griffin, and his throw will easily get Cole Calhoun. So Calhoun was bunting with 1 out. He's retired for out number 2. Pennington moves up to second.
Great idea, bad angle. That's it. You got to get it past the pitcher, more towards his third base side, and you're going to get yourself a lot of hits and increase that batting average, and thus your on-base percentage.
So here's Mike Trout. Trout has had a single and a double. Griffin ready on the pitch on Mike, and that one a little bit low. We were talking earlier about the World Baseball Classic and how some players are starting to leave their major league clubs to join the teams that will represent the various countries. Trout fooled on that off-speed.
And he
pitch
can only
right there.
smile. That was a serious twister on that one. Like, okay, let's do it again.
Yep. Well, Mike Trout's thinking, hey, I get 3 strikes here. That's just 1.
He would love to see it again.
And the 1-1 delivery, he fouls that one off on the right side.
So much so that he prepared that swing, as I was talking about earlier, dipping down with that front shoulder. And was late on that fastball.
Team USA was certainly hoping that Mike Trout would be a part of their roster, but he has declined, as he did in the past.
And the second question he answered here when he got to camp, and he just said personal reasons.
And there's a pitch that comes in and hits him. It got him like the side of the arm, left arm.
Right where he has protection.
Yep.
Right by the elbow.
That was a slow pitch right there, and Trout just shakes it off. So 2 are on. And we'll see what Valbuena can do here. The Angels are trailing 2-1. Trout's going to be taken out, not because the Angels fear he's injured himself, just because he was only going to get 3 at-bats today, and pinch runner for him.
So watch that replay in the regular season. You don't think that play is going to be contested by manager Jeff Bannister, Terry? To see if he threw the elbow in there?
Yep.
For sure.
And the pitch on its way. That one to Valbuena. He takes ball 1. Sherman Johnson is the pinch runner for Trout. And we'll see who comes into the game to play center field for Mike Trout. It will not be Johnson. And here's the pitch. And that one is a foul tip right by the plate. Earlier in this inning, we saw Cole Calhoun bunting with 1 out. And that advanced Pennington up to second, where he is right now. The pitch, this is a pop-up, and it's into shallow right center. A lot of people converging. It's certainly playable. Taking charge out there is Odor. He'll signal he wants it, and he puts it away. The inning is over. So the Angels had a couple of base runners left on here and have stranded 6 so far in the ball game. 5 have been completed today in Tempe, and right now 2-1 Texas on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. The Angels make wholesale changes as we get ready to start inning number 6 here. It's 2-1 Texas. as the Angels have brought in a new pitcher, and Justin Miller's on the mound. The first pitch, it's lifted in the air off the bat of Hoying out to left field. The new left fielder Shane Robinson circles under that one and makes the grab. It's the first out. That was Hoying's first at bat, so he's set down, and Mazzara will be the next batter. So we mentioned the Angels making a lot of changes here, and let's update you on those. The new first baseman is Matt Thaiss. New second baseman Sherman Johnson. He came in to run for Trout. New third baseman is Caleb Cowart. At shortstop is Nolan Fontana. Shane Robinson, who made the catch in left field off the bat of Hoying, is the new left fielder. Eric Young Jr. is now in center. Ryan Lamar is the new right fielder for the Angels. And the Angels also have a new catcher in the ball game, and taking over behind the plate for the Angels, working with Miller, is Jose Briseño,
who's been quite impressive himself, along with Maldonado and Perez, and throwing guys out.
So a lot of movement as far as that defensive scheme for the Halos. Here's the 0-2 pitch, and Miller's delivery is outside. This is the second time we've seen Justin Miller this spring, and he spent time last year, 40 appearances with the Colorado Rockies. Good arm, good fastball. He also has a very good slider, non-roster invitee in camp. And the next delivery, that one's a little bit low. He also, like a number of the players we've mentioned, has a pretty good beard going on out there on the mound.
That's seems to be a small trend in the corner of the clubhouse, I guess. In different shades, by the way.
That's right. 2-2 is the count here on Mazzara. Miller's next delivery, and he tries to pick away on the outside part of the plate. That one is low. The Rangers have only 2 hits, but they have the lead 2-1. Angels have had 6 hits. Here's the payoff pitch. It's bounced by the mound, and it's going to skip through into center field. So a 1-out hit for Mazzara comes on a 2-strike delivery.
Good job by Nomar Mazzara right through the box. Hitting number 3 today. Young player with outstanding potential.
So Mazzara is going to leave the game. They're going to bring in a pinch runner for him. And the batter getting ready to bat for the first time is Ronald Guzman.
How about that, Terry? How things change, huh? Within a year. At this time last year, it was Mazzara coming into games in the 5th inning to get his feet wet in the big league level.
There's a pickoff toss, and the new base runner dives back to the bag. That is Delino DeShields Jr. Justin Miller is ready. Speedy runner on at first base, and the pitch lined into center field. New center fielder is there waiting. It's Eric Young Jr., and he puts that one away for the second out. Hit right at him. Rougned Odor will be the next batter. As Justin Miller works for the Angels, he's replacing Keenan Middleton, who was touched for only 1 hit, but a pair of runs in his 1 inning of work. He ended up walking a batter and hitting a batter. Did not strike out anyone. And Middleton right now the pitcher of record for the Angels.
Yeah, Rangers doing a great job in taking advantage of the walk to hit batsmen. Good base running, and 1 hit, 1 pitch, and they're up 2-1 thanks to Bernier's double down the line. And of course, Terry, for a guy like Middleton, it's lesson learned right away. At this level, things happen very quickly.
Things can happen quickly in our booth as well.
What was that?
That was I don't really want to.
It was a wind.
I get, yeah, let's
it was
leave
caused
it at
by
that.
the wind.
Here's a ball lined into right field, coming in hard, sliding, and making a nice play on that one is Ryan Lamar, the new right fielder for the Angels. He puts that sinking liner away off the bat of Odor, and that'll end the inning. No runs hit in the inning, no errors, and a runner left on. We're headed now to the bottom of the 6th. It's a 2-1 Texas lead on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Have a couple of changes for the Rangers. We'll get to those in just a moment. Eric Young Jr. is going to lead things off for the Angels. This is his first time up. He's hitting out of Danny Espinosa's spot in the batting order. And Espinosa today went 0 for 2. First pitch on Young. That one is a ball, and the count is no balls, 1 strike. Next pitch taken. It's a ball, 1 ball, 1 strike. And there's one low and inside. The new second baseman replacing Rougned Odor, and we're going to try our best with this one, is Isaiah Kiner Falefa. I think we got it right.
You did.
And
Well
the
done.
pitch. Here's one that's chopped back to the mound. It's fielded there by Griffin, and his throw is in time to get Young. 1 away. And they also have a new catcher in the game. And taking over behind the plate is A.J. Jimenez. We'll see if one of the other players that traveled here with the Rangers gets into the action maybe a little bit later on. Another one of the players from their minor league camp. That one is low and outside. His name is Joe Jackson. And yes, he is related to Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yes, we're going to retrace that whole history.
Yeah.
Genealogy.
Joe Jackson is a catcher outfielder, a left-handed batter in the Rangers system, and he is, we're told, the great nephew of Shoeless Joe Jackson. Here's a cut and a miss. And the count's 2 balls and 1 strike. Caleb Coward is the batter. This is his first time up. He's hitting out of Marte's spot. Replaced him at third base. Marte today was 0 for 2, a couple of ground outs. And the next delivery on Coward, he is taking ball 3, 3-1. A.J. Griffin, they're stretching him out. This is his 3rd inning today.
That's a good job there by what the Rangers are doing in terms of implementing innings early. Griffin also, as after Perez went 47 pitches through 2 2/3.
And there's ball 4 on Cowart, so he has a walk. The next pitch will be Griffin's 40th of the day.
In fact, Terry, tomorrow for our television open, Mike Swisher will address the issue of how many innings, pitches are by design here mapped out in spring training. First outing, remember, there's times when you see guys go 2 innings, then they are short on pitches. They go work out in the bullpen to finish off the amount of pitches. But also we see Mike Swisher switch back between guys going out 2 innings the first time out to 3 innings and back to 2 innings on the first time out. But the one team that consistently through the years, I recall here, at least in the Cactus League, it goes out and throws their guys 3 innings quickly, is the Oakland A's. And going back to the Zitos and Mulders, to get those guys stretched out early before you know they're at 5 innings halfway through the spring.
Doug Brocal, the pitching coach for Texas, just went out to have a word with Griffin. He's going to stay in the ball game. And the batter for the Angels is Martin Maldonado, who is the DH today, so he has yet to leave the game. This is his 3rd time up. First pitch, a ball on him. It's 1-0. Cowart is the 1-out base runner over at first base. He represents the tying run. 2-1 Texas here. Bottom of the 6th, and the next pitch, a slow breaking ball, and that one is in there for a strike. This bottom of the 6th inning, it's being brought to you today by Rotolo Chevrolet in Fontana. Rotolo Chevrolet is pursuing excellence every day. You can visit them at rotolo.com. That's rotolo.com. Here's the next pitch. Bounce right to 3rd. This could be 2. Flip to 2nd. Relay to 1st. It is a double play. So the Rangers have turned a couple of them today, and that was another routine one right down to the 3rd baseman. It ends on that play, and that'll do it for the Angels here in the bottom of the 6th. The 7th inning is coming up at Tempe Diablo Stadium right now. 2-1 Rangers on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Seventh inning we go. 2-1 Texas on top. Before we get the action underway, let's pause for stations to identify themselves on the Angels Baseball Radio Network. Terry Smith, Jose Mota, and our producer engineer Jorge Sevilla with you here from Tempe Diablo. Joey Gallo is the first batter up. There's a new pitcher on the mound for the Angels, Austin Adams, and his first delivery of ball to Cal. 1 ball, no strikes. Here's the next pitch, and that is on the outside corner. It's a called strike. We've seen Adams already this spring, and he's a pitcher that the Angels acquired last month from the Cleveland Indians, where he appeared in 19 games with Cleveland.
Keep it clean now with the Austin Adams situation, because there's been quite a few Austin Adams associated with the Angels, and some confusion to us to the reacquiring of Austin Adams.
Right. There's a cut and a miss. Angels had a minor league pitcher last season named Austin Adams, who they traded after the season to the Washington Nationals. That was the deal that brought the Angels Danny Espinosa. And there's a pitch in there on a 2-2 taken by Gallo, struck him out looking. So he was a strikeout victim for the second time today. An 0-for-3 day for the left fielder. Batter now is going to be the new catcher in the ball game for Texas, A.J. Jimenez. Fans, don't forget to get your red on. Become a season seat holder to enjoy exclusive benefits in the same seats all season long at the greatest value. Visit angels.com/seats or call 714-4ANGELS for more information. Jimenez taking that one, and that pitch in there for a strike, 0-1. Austin Adams, who's pitching for the Angels. We were mentioning the Angels had a minor league pitcher for a few years in the system by the same name, a right-hander, just like the guy pitching for the Angels right now. But this is a different Austin Adams, so it wasn't as if the Angels had traded Austin Adams away and then reacquired him. This is just a right-handed pitcher, just like the one the Angels dealt that they picked up from the Cleveland Indians last month. Same name, right-handed pitcher. Here's one bounced on the third base side. It skips off the glove of Coward, and they're going to score that one a hit for Jimenez, an infield single. Coward went down on that one. I don't know if he took a little peek to see where the runner was. That might have cost him, because then the ball skipped off his glove, and by the time he retrieved it, he had no shot to get a throw to first base.
I believe you're right on it correctly, because of that strong arm that he has possessed. That's one thing he has to guard against, is to make sure the play starts, and you cannot start any play without the baseball. But boy, it would have been fun to see him rifle away and see if he would have gotten Jimenez at first base with that great arm he has.
So here's Bernier, the shortstop, batting, and he bounces that one to second base for one. The relay to first base just late. It's a nice play by Sherman Johnson, as he had to wait for that high hopper to come down. He shoveled the ball over to Fontana. His relay to first base was just a shade late.
It's a good job. High hop, you got to come get it. You cannot stay back. It's going to be trouble for you. And at the same time, now you show your second baseman, the guy at second base, that's your shortstop, pivot guy, the baseball with enough time. And Fontana also himself did a good job coming across the bag.
So 2 outs. Looks like they have a pinch runner now at first base for Bernier, who ended up going 1 for 2 today with a pair of RBIs. Drove in both Texas runs a couple of innings ago. And here's the pitch. That's low. Snap throw to first, and that runner dives back to the bag safely. That is Michael DeLeon, who is the pinch runner. Young shortstop in the Texas organization. Probably stay in the game and replace Bernier. That's the position he was playing. And the pitch, and that one is low. It misses for a ball.
Terry, let's say, please do. Just keep him right where he is. Makes it a lot easier up here.
Jason Martinson is the batter. He's at third base now for Texas. He replaced Andy Ibanez, who had an 0-for-1 day.
This is where the scoring sheets start looking quite interesting.
Attention media, here's this afternoon's attendance. 3,227.
Today's attendance here at Tempe Diablo Stadium, 3,227, 32-27 for today's ball game. Angels today playing their third home Cactus League game. A couple more will follow this one. We'll be here again tomorrow and also on Friday. Angels play the White Sox in a road Cactus League game on Saturday, and then right back here at Tempe Diablo for games against the Reds and the Cubs on Sunday and next Monday. Here's the pitch. It's popped up, foul behind the plate. Going back on it is Briseño, but he's going to run out of room. So the count's 2-2. Not a whole lot of offense in this game. Rangers have 2 runs on 4 hits. The Angels 1 run on 6 hits. Toss over to first base. De Leon dives back to the bag safely.
Terry, and the Angels continue to get pretty decent starting pitching here through the first 5 games. And Jesse Chavez, who is slated to be the Angels' number 5 starter, as it is projected right now. Today, 2 solid scoreless innings. And Jesse Chavez threw only 26 pitches, striking out 3 in those 2 innings.
Yeah, he looked good. He did a real nice job.
So back in the fold, Ricky Nolasco, as the starting rotation starts to take shape. We'll see him tomorrow.
Nolasco really came on last season for the Angels after they got him from the Twins. The next delivery on the 2-2, that's taken by Martinson, and he is out looking, struck him out. So that will end the inning. Strikeout gets the third baseman, and that'll do it here for Texas in the 7th. No runs, they had a hit. No errors, they leave a runner on. 7th inning stretch time coming up in Tempe. The Angels down by a run. It's 2-1 Rangers on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West.
Huey.
Nolan Fontana will be the first batter the Angels will send up here as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. He's hitting out of the 8th spot, and this will be his first time up today, and he'll face a new Texas pitcher, Andrew Faulkner. And he delivers a pitch that was way outside for ball 1. That would have been a wild pitch if somebody was on base.
Well, and this is very interesting because their pitching coach is heading out to the mound immediately after 1 pitch, and
so is one of the athletic trainers,
along with the manager. So I wonder what Doug Brocail saw here.
Yeah, that was a terrible pitch. Not to get on the case of Faulkner right there, and there is some concern. Maybe he's injured, and sure enough, he's coming off the field. So Andrew Faulkner, who was in 9 games for Texas a year ago, left-hander, hard thrower. He is leaving the ball game after one pitch. So we have a pitching change here in the bottom of the 7th inning. When we get back, we'll tell you who the Rangers are going to bring in, and whoever they bring in, he will have as much time to get loose as possible with the injury replacement.
In fact, it was Faulkner himself who called for some help when he delivered that pitch. You could see him waving somebody in from the dugout. So there it is.
So we will take a break, a pitching change here at Tempe Diablo Stadium. When we get back, Angels will be batting here in the bottom of the 7th, trailing the Rangers 2-1 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. So with Andrew Faulkner throwing one pitch and leaving the ball game, the Rangers have brought in another young pitcher who is up with them from their minor league camp, and his name is Austin Bibbins Dirks. He is a right-hander, and he's taking some time getting loose out there on the mound. Hopefully nothing too serious as far as Faulkner is concerned. But Jose, as you mentioned, after he threw that pitch, and boy, the pitch was so outside, and it bounced to the backstop. Faulkner signaled to the coaching staff, hey, somebody needs to come out here and check me out, and they took him out.
It's scary when you see this happen, when the player himself says, please come, because something just did not feel right. And a guy, as you mentioned, with a very powerful arm, had some games under his belt with a big league team last year. And concern is all the way around at the Texas Rangers staff seating right by their dugout.
So with the new pitcher Austin Bibbins Dirks taking over, the count he assumes is 1 ball, no strikes. If the batter Fontana were to walk here, the walk would be charged against the new pitcher, not the pitcher who left with the injury, because it was just 1 ball, no strikes. Had it been 2 balls, no strikes, that batter would be the property of the injured pitcher if that batter had walked.
That's a good job clearing things up, Terry.
Yep. And here's the next delivery. That's ball 2.
To explain it again, 2 balls would have been a different story.
Right. If the new pitcher coming into the game was behind in the count, 2 balls and no strikes, but it was 1-0 when he came in. So it's 1-1 right now. The first pitch he threw is a strike, and that one's a little bit low. 2 balls, 1 strike, the count on Fontana. Infield backed up. The third baseman, Martinson, is across from the bag. And here's the next delivery, and that one is a little bit high. 2-1 to count. Angels batting here in the 7th and trailing it by a run, 2-1. Angels got a first inning run, and the Rangers put their 2 on the board in the top of the 5th. Here's the next delivery, and this is lifted way up in the air into very shallow right center field. A lot of people converging. It's the center fielder. You can hear him from our booth. Jose Cardona signaling, "I got it," and sure enough, he'll make the catch on that one for the out. So 1 away. And here is Ryan Lamar getting ready to bat. This is his first time up. He's hitting out at the 9-hole Pennington spot. Pennington was 1 for 1, a single and a walk today. And the first pitch on Lamar, he takes that one for a ball. Breeze has died down, not a factor at all. We've had bright sunshine all day long, and the forecast, at least for the next few days, looks real good here in the valley. Going to warm up, and it should remain sunny.
Beautiful days even after the storms have passed through here. Always welcome these cooler days here in the Valley of the Sun, because you know what's coming.
Here's the next pitch, and Lamar takes that one low and outside. Want to remind Angel fans to get your red on. The 20-game flex plan offers a variety of options to choose from. Opening night, premium matchups, and promotional giveaway nights. Buy your flex plan today at angels.com/ticket plan or call 714-4-ANGELS. It's a fly ball lifted to left field. Scott Heineman is out there now for Texas. He will make the catch on that one, and Lamar an easy out, so 2 gone.
And good to have also tuning in our friends from Fox Sports Southwest. And it will be the first of many times we'll be able to at least bring these ball clubs to you here during spring training. Thanks to John Blake for letting us know about the coverage today.
Here's the next pitch. That's fouled off on the left side. Yeah, the Angels will have 2 more games this spring against the Rangers. One on the road in Cactus Lake play against Texas, and another one here at Tempe Diablo. And both of those games will also be televised back on Fox Sports Southwest as well. So the North Texas audience will get a chance to tune in on the broadcast. 1 ball, 1 strike to count. Shane Robinson taking the last pitch, and it was a fastball up and in that backed him off the plate.
Adding a little shave. Another bearded Angel.
Here's the next pitch from Bibbins Dirks, and that is low. 2-1. Shane Robinson in a situation where he's got to do some good things this spring to win a spot on the Angels opening day roster.
It is crowded everywhere you look, Terry, in some of these battles and competition the Angels have here going in camp. From the starting rotation of number 5 all the way down through the bullpen arms, the bench spots, backup infielder, backup outfielder, and it's good. It's healthy. Mike Scioscia's enjoying this. He says it's going to be a lot of tough conversations at the end with people that are going to deserve being on the team.
Angels picked up Shane Robinson last March during the spring training action, and here he lifts one in the air in the left center. That's going to fall in. It's going to be a 2-out hit for him. So Robinson on base, potential tying run. And now set the bat for the first time is Jose Briseño. He's hitting out a Cole Calhoun spot. Cole went 1 for 3 today.
terms of the Angels and injuries on that front, also looking fairly well. The only setback suffered by anybody was Cam Bedrosian. Had a little scare with his groin, but as of today, he was taking the mound and throwing a bullpen, so that's good news for the Angels. Is Cam a big part of that bullpen?
Here's the pitch.
Throwing the bullpen today.
That one is a little bit inside for a ball. The count 1 ball, no strikes. Waiting on deck for the Angels is Sherman Johnson. He's hitting out of Mike Trout's spot. He's at the bat today. Here's the next delivery. This is a pop-up that's going to drop not too far from us, back behind the plate, out of play. So 1 ball, 1 strike. We get word from the Texas clubhouse that Andrew Faulkner, the left-handed pitcher who made just 1 pitch and then was taken out of the ball game, and the pitch he threw was a ball that was bounced back to the backstop. He left the game because he felt lightheaded. I guess he felt he was going to faint out there on the mound.
Well, something was not right.
Yeah.
As to how far he missed with that 1 pitch he threw. I'm glad he recognized it and not try to be a hero about it.
So it's not arm related or any injury per se, but just feeling a little bit under the weather, lightheaded, and he was taken out of the ball game. So I guess right now it seems like good news for the Rangers. Here's the 1-1. Robinson goes, and the pitch is bounced softly to third base. Long throw by Martinson over there will get Presenio, and the inning is over. Angels had a hit, but leave a runner on, and now as we head to the 8th inning, the Rangers still on top, 2-1 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Angels make 2 changes. There's a new right fielder in the ball game. Michael Hermosillo will take over as Ryan Lamar is no longer in the ball game. And there's a new pitcher for the Angels, the 6th of the day, and we're going to get a chance to see a Venezuelan native, Eduardo Paredes, as he will take over. He pitched at Inland Empire and Arkansas last year. Angels like him. He's on the 40-man roster. Fastball top out around 98, slider and changeup, known as a good competitor, and did some closing last year in the Angels system. He had 12 saves.
Just keep an eye on that delivery. Watch where he throws from. because he'll throw the changeup even from the side slot too.
And the first pitch on Cardona, he pops it on the left side, a few feet back on the outfield grass is the shortstop Nolan Fontana. He puts that one away, and one pitch, one quick out.
So he's got a good combination, Terry, as you talk about his repertoire getting up to the upper 90s. Not the most conventional of deliveries, but he can really hide the baseball. He has a slight pause and a firm grip on that changeup, which he uses with his entire hand. Got a nice dipping action on it with very good arm speed.
Here's the first pitch, and that is a fastball that missed high for a ball. Paredes is ranked as one of the better prospects in the Angels system, maybe just outside the top 10 as far as prospects in the system right now. And here's his 2-0, and that one is way outside. So it's 3 balls and no strikes. Jared Hoying is the batter. Paredes replacing Austin Adams, who had a scoreless inning last inning in the 7th, allowing a hit and picked up 2 strikeouts. And there is a 3-0 pitch. It's nowhere close. Ball 4. Paredes might have a little nervous energy out there because he's known as a guy who has pretty good command, but he walks the second batter he faces on 4 pitches.
Yeah, sometimes this environment will get the best of you. Eagerly waiting for your chance to come. Also, you're going to be facing more selective hitters. He'll calm down and realize same game he's been playing for a long time, and some guys realize it quickly, others don't. Keep it simple.
So here's Delino DeShields Jr. at the plate. And the first delivery on him, that one is up and in for a ball. 1 ball, no strikes. So Shields has very good speed. He was in 74 games for Texas last year. He hit only 209.
Terry, they need him back to where he was 2 years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago, it looked like he was going to be an everyday player for them for a long time. He's a guy who once stole 101 bases in a minor league season. And the pitch. That's in there for a called strike.
Once the Rangers signed Ian Desmond last spring, by the way. Already into the spring training season. It was in Delino DeShields. Did not project to play as much.
There goes the runner. The pitch is a ball. Throw to second. It's on the money and gunned down. Trying to steal is the base runner Hoying. Boy, that was a heck of a throw there by Briseño. Right on the money.
Keep your eye on him. Jose Molina, Angels catching instructors. Mike Scioscia himself just continue to rave about the transfer and the pop times these Angels catchers have been flashing here in spring training so far.
Sherman Johnson was on the tag there on a 2-4 caught stealing. And the next pitch is in there. The 3-1 delivery runs the count full to 3-2.
In fact, Terry, the Angels catchers, a combination of the 2 regulars is our projected. Maldonado and Perez are guys that really light it up when it comes down to pop time. Ball hits the glove. Catcher, ball hits the glove. Tag is applied at second base. Projected to be second in the majors this season with that quickness from both of those guys.
On a 3-2 delivery, DeShields has walked. So talked about his speed during his at bat. He could be on the move as well. Ronald Guzman is at the plate, left-handed batter. DeShields not going on the first pitch, and it's off speed. It misses for a ball. Guzman, a good prospect in the Rangers system. Got the AAA last year. They projected him to be a big power hitter in their system, and as of yet the power hasn't quite developed as much as they had anticipated, but a young guy still with a chance to make an impact down the road.
And also another young player. The Rangers invested a lot of money coming out of Latin America, as they did with Mazzara.
Here's the 1-0. Guzman takes outside. 2 balls and no strikes. We're in the 8th inning. It's a 2-1 game. It's been pretty quiet here. Rangers have only 4 hits. Just 1 extra base hit for Texas. The Angels have 7 hits. Only 1 extra base hit for the Angels. Here's the next pitch, and that one is taken for a strike. 2-1. Eduardo Paredes on the hill, getting his first appearance for the Angels this spring, and the next delivery from the right-hander. It's grounded right to short. Should be an easy play to end the inning. Throw a little bit low, but handled by Theis. Fontana's throw will get him, and the inning is over on the 6-3 ground out. A couple of walks in the inning, but they fail to score, and they end up leaving a runner on base. We are headed down to the bottom of the 8th. Angels trailing by a run 2-1 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Sherman Johnson is the batter for the Angels. There's a new pitcher in the game for the Rangers, left-hander Wesley Wright, who recently signed a minor league deal with Texas. And Wesley Wright, a former Angel. A couple seasons ago, he was in the Boston organization last year, pitched AAA last year. And the delivery is a little bit low. It misses 1 ball, 1 strike.
Yeah, not for long, but he was an Angel.
Wright has had a reputation in the past being tough against lefties. Fastball, good slider, curve, and changeup. And here's the next pitch. That's way low and outside. This bottom of the 8th inning. It's being brought to you by Rotolo Chevrolet in Fontana. Rotolo Chevrolet is pursuing excellence every day. You can visit them at rotolo.com. That's rotolo.com. And here's the next pitch. Cut and a miss. So it's 2-2. We'll run down some Cactus League action for you in just a moment. Also check out the Grapefruit League, where just about everything is over there. And here's the next pitch. And that is a called 3rd strike. Johnson is out looking. Wright strikes out the first batter he faces. He's replacing Bibbins Dirks, who worked a scoreless inning last inning against the Angels. Matt Theis will be the next hitter.
Jim Everett going back to that zone where hitters have to be more aware of. It's going to be called, and there it was. He's been pretty consistent all throughout the day behind the plate. Great job. We have the luxury of having 4 umpires here today, besides Everett, Jerry Davis, Kerwin Danley, and Brian Knight. All getting their work
outfield and veteran umpires. First one on Theis, who's batting for the first time today. A strike. Theis is hitting out of Valbuena's cleanup spot, and he looks that one over. That pitch missed. 1-1 to count. D-backs and White Sox are 2-2 in the 7th. Cubs up 4-2 against the Royals in the 8th. Brewers and Reds are 2-2 in the 8th inning. Mariners leading the Indians 7-2 in the 7th. Padres blanking the A's 5-0 in the top of the 9th. Another Padres squad. They are trailing the Rockies 3-1 in the 7th inning. Dodgers and Giants later on tonight. Also later tonight in the Grapefruit League, it'll be the Braves and Yankees as Theis lines one up the middle, and that's going to fall in for a base hit. 1-out single. Angels have the tying runner on at first base. And Eric Young Jr. will be the next batter. Finals in the Florida Grapefruit League. It was the Marlins beating the Astros 9-5. Orioles over the Red Sox 12-5. Cardinals beat the Mets 6-1. Phillies and Rays a 5-5 tie. Pirates over the Twins 3-1. Nationals beat the Tigers 9-1, and another Tiger split squad had a victory against the Toronto Blue Jays 5-4. 1 ball, no strikes to count.
Yeah, Theis once again showing that sweet stroke. He's very consistent, staying down and seeing the ball travel. Not afraid of being late, staying right with it against a lefty.
Here's the next pitch, and it's grounded towards second. Looks like a double play. The flip to second for 1. The relay to first base. It's in time, and the inning is over. Well, the Rangers have done a good job defensively here today. They've turned a few double plays. That looks like the 3rd one against the Angels in this ballgame. The 9th inning will be coming up in just a moment as we head there. It's still 2-1 Texas on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Angels bring in a new pitcher, their 7th of the day. Jose Valdez, who happens to be celebrating his 27th birthday today, will take over in relief. He replaces Eduardo Paredes, who had a scoreless inning, although he did walk a couple batters in the 8th. So Valdez will be the new pitcher. Here in 25 games for the Angels last season. It's a guy who's had some control issues, hard thrower. And we've already seen him a few days ago, making his Cactus League debut. So he gets ready to take on the Rangers as we go to inning number 9. Texas up 2-1. And the first pitch, that's right in there for a strike.
Valdez has a very good arm. We see him and saw him throw 97, 98 last season over at the Big A.
Here's the next pitch on Kiner Fiafla, and that one is a grounder hit right to short. It's handled there by the Angels shortstop Nolan Fontana. He throws him out. One away.
Well, Valdez, the early message here in camp as he's throwing his first bullpen was Mike Socha right behind him saying, listen, 97, 98 is great, but wouldn't you prefer to have command? So 95 is fine. 95, 94, it's good. Mix in your slider, use it a little bit more, and spread the plate open on the other side so guys are not only sitting on your fastball no matter how hard it comes when you fall behind in the count.
Scott Heineman is the batter. He took over in left field for them. He checks his swing and he bounces the ball right to Theis, and he will solo to the bag, the Angel first baseman. So 2 real quick outs here in the 9th inning. And now stepping up will be the catcher A.J. Jimenez. Angels will continue this Cactus League homestand tomorrow here in Tempe as Ricky Nolasco will make his Cactus League debut for the Angels. And he will be opposed by the Giants' Tyler Beede. Friday, the Angels will host the Milwaukee Brewers. The Angels have already played Milwaukee once this spring, and it'll be Matt Shoemaker against Junior Guerra. Counts 1 ball, no strikes on Jimenez. Angels will have one more shot at the bottom of the 9th, down by a run at the moment. Next delivery evens up the count. 1 ball, 1 strike on Jimenez.
It's one of your favorite last names, Terry. I know you have to mention Jimenez with Ubaldo, with AJ, but you also like your Jimenez once in a while.
That's, well, Chris Jimenez, who has certainly spent a lot of time over the years with these Texas Rangers.
Come on now.
He prefers to have his last name pronounced Jimenez, as you're well aware.
Of course, we're joking up here, so please don't take it too seriously.
2 balls and 1 strike is the count. And that one is fouled back. Well, for the Rangers fans who are tuned in back in North Texas today on Fox Sports West, they know what I'm talking about. They're familiar with Chris Jimenez.
Well, he made it clear when he came up to the big leagues.
Two and 2 is the count on A.J. Jimenez. And the next delivery, that's fouled off on the left side.
I'm just still waiting for the day when you're going to just slip a Jimenez here on Ubaldo.
It makes me think of our former producer engineer, Darren Chan, D.C. He would always give you a hard time about that one.
I'm going to have Ubaldo come approach you in Baltimore and say, hey, by the way, you know what my name is, right? Please call me Jimenez now.
Yeah. Here's the 2-2. That's fouled back behind the plate. And mentioning D.C., and we should, for those tuning in, our longtime radio listeners, they know how much fun we've had in the past with D.C. Darren Chan has left the Angels. He's actually doing the same job with the San Francisco Giants. And you might be saying, well, why would he leave the Angels and go to the Giants? Well, D.C. grew up in San Francisco. The Giants were his hometown team. His mother lives there. So he's returning back to his roots.
KNBR?
Right.
So,
and
very happy.
I've had a chance to visit with him already this spring. He's back in the Bay Area now, and he'll be doing the same job as I mentioned for the San Francisco Giants this year. 3 balls and 2 strikes the count. And here's the next pitch. It's lifted foul down the right side. That's going to get back and out of play.
And some of the news coming out of Rangers camp, of course, there is Josh Hamilton going through another arthroscopic surgery on his left knee, which was done Monday in Houston. And for a guy that was a long shot to make their team, just consider another surgery for Josh Hamilton.
And you just got to wonder whether or not there's any more baseball left in his future. Just a lot of injuries. He did not play at all last year. There's one that's high and outside, and really it's been that knee problem. I mean, he's already had that knee surgery on the same knee, the left knee, several times, and he's going to have it again.
So imagine Hamilton felt stiffness in his left knee on the day of the club's first full squad workout back on February 21st.
Yeah. And sometimes, not just in sports, but in any walk of life, your body's just not going to cooperate.
And consider
Can't control it.
He was not on a guaranteed deal either.
Right.
He was invited to camp.
Here's Michael De Leon batting after the walk issued to Jimenez, and De Leon just fouled the first pitch off for ball 1. 6 walks given up today by Angels pitching, and you look back at the inning where the Rangers got their 2 runs, and that's been enough to hold this lead here in the 9th inning. When they scored those 2 runs, one of the runners who scored walked, the other one who scored was hit by a pitch.
Oh, the always unfriendly leadoff walk.
Yeah. There's a pitch in there for a called strike. 0-2.
Friendly for the offense, of course. And that was a good at bat by Rougned Odor back against Keenan Middleton back in the 5th inning.
So 2 strikes to count, and here's the next pitch. That one is a ball, and then a snap throw by Briseño to Theis, but back to the bag goes the base runner Jimenez. After the game, Jose will visit with Angels manager Mike Scioscia. We'll get some of his thoughts on what has gone on here today in Tempe.
You want to hear from Scioscia?
I think that's the plan, right?
Let's do that.
Okay. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Valdez has made 15 pitches here in the 9th, and here's the next one, and that is cut on and missed. He fooled him right there, took something off the fastball, struck him out, and that will end the inning. They leave a runner on. We're headed to the bottom of the 9th. We'll see what the Angels can do with 3 more outs to play with. Trailing 2-1 on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Driven by... Rangers will go to the bullpen. They're hoping that left-hander Adam Lowen can get the final 3 outs here and hold on to the lead for them. We'll see how it all plays out. Caleb Cowart will lead it off. Switch hitter will bat from the right side. Lowen is a former major league outfielder who's now a pitcher, a left-handed pitcher, in fact, and his first delivery, and that one is cut on and missed for strike 1. Adam Lowen played outfield several stretches in his major league career with the Toronto Blue Jays going back to 2009. Didn't hit a whole lot at the major league level. Here's the next pitch, and a big swing and a miss. It's no balls and 2 strikes. He's a former first-round pick of the Baltimore Orioles way back in 2002. He was the 4th player selected in that draft. Canadian Adam Lowen. And here's the next pitch, and that's inside. So 1 ball, 2 strikes. Cowardson's coming in, batting for the 2nd time today. He walked his first time up. Jose is heading downstairs, and he will visit with Mike Scioscia right after the game. Next pitch. This is chopped right at the shortstop. Should be an easy play. De Leon will throw to first, and he gets cowered by plenty. So 1 up, 1 away. This is Martin Maldonado's spot in the batting order. But the Angels are going to bring in Taylor Ward, it looks like, the pinch hit. Ward is wearing number 99. And David Fletcher is apparently going to pinch hit for Fontana, who's scheduled to bat next. First delivery, pitch taken for ball 1. It's 1 ball, no strikes on Ward. Former first-round pick of the Angels, and that one he takes high and away. And the count goes to 2 balls and no strikes. Taylor Ward hit .249 last year with 10 homers for Class A Inland Empire. And the next delivery, high and away. The count goes to 3-0. Here's Lowen's pitch, and that's on the outside corner. It's a called strike. Lowen pitched on Sunday against Kansas City and struggled. Faced 6 batters. 4 of them got on base against him. Got the first batter out here today, the 3-1 delivery, and that's high, ball 4. So the Angels have the tying run on at first base with 1 out here in the bottom of the 9th. And David Fletcher is going to be the next batter. And we've talked about Fletcher. He's showing a knack of getting on base. Yesterday's ball game for the Angels against the Cubs, Fletcher was in the starting lineup. He batted 3 times. He had a single, a walk. He scored a run. He stole 3 bases yesterday. Here's the pitch, and that's right in there, a called strike. Angels have brought in a pinch runner for Ward. And Matt Williams is the base runner now over at first base. So Mike Scioscia trying to get that tying run in. There's a toss over to first, and Williams is back. One strike on young David Fletcher. Here's the pitch, and that's a little bit high and outside. It misses for a ball. Fletcher, certainly one of the Angels' top prospects. You could argue maybe one of the top 5 in the system right now. And he advanced to Double-A in his first full pro season after the Angels took him in the 6th round back in the 2015 June draft. Runner goes. The pitch, it's chopped to short. Skips off the glove of the shortstop, De Leon, and they're not going to get a play anywhere. So the Angels have them at first and second with 1 out here in the bottom of the 9th inning. We'll see how they score that. That was not an easy play. De Leon had to charge in, and even if he had fielded the ball cleanly, Fletcher can run. So I had to wonder whether or not he was going to be able to get him. In any case, the ball was hit on a high hop, and trying to field it on the short hop was the shortstop out there. Looks like they're going to score that one a hit. So we'll see what Michael Hermosillo can do. He will be the next batter. And sure enough, there's Fletcher on base again for the Angels. The runner at first. He represents the winning run. Hermosillo, A-ball a year ago in the Angels system, had a very good year. And here's the first pitch, and he takes that one low for a ball. It's 1 ball, no strikes. Hermosillo, a non-roster invitee this spring. played at both the Angel A clubs a year ago, Burlington and Inland Empire, and combined to hit .357. Here's the pitch, and that is a little bit low. Ball 2, 2-0. Base hit here could tie up the ball game. Hermosillo, the last time he batted in yesterday's game against the Cubs, he hit a home run. There go both runners. The pitch is high. Throw down to third, and out at third base is Williams. Wow, did that hurt right there. The Angels had both runners on the move, and the catcher Jimenez firing a strike to Martinson at third base, and they gunned down Williams for the second out here in the bottom of the ninth. So no room for error now for the Angels down to their final out. The count's 3-0. And here's the next pitch, and that caught the outside corner. Well, the Angels had pretty good speed on the bases here. Did not have to try for the double steal. Gambled, and it didn't work. Lowen is ready, and the next delivery, that one is lifted foul down the right side, back and out of play. I'm sure the Angels, knowing that Lowen, who's only been pitching for a few years, a former outfielder, might not be the quickest guy to the plate, decided to gamble there, sending the two runners with one out, but it didn't work. So now it's a full count. The Angels are down to their final strike in this ball game. Texas trying to hold on to a 2-1 lead, bottom of the ninth. Runner at second, tying run. Here's the next pitch. That's ball 4. And boy, now that double steal try really looms big, especially with the walk here to Hermosillo. Shane Robinson will be the next batter. Lowen hasn't retired any of the last 3 that he's faced. He's walked a batter, given up a hit, and walked another batter. But the caught stealing has certainly helped him here in this inning. So Shane Robinson, who's been up once today with a hit, will be the batter. Two runners on. Lowen is ready. And the first pitch, that's nowhere close, way outside. And now Doug Brocail, their pitching coach, is going to go out and have a word with Lowen. They do have a right-hander up in the bullpen. Want to remind Angel fans you can join the Angels all season long. Enjoy post-game Saturday night fireworks shows presented by Wells Fargo. More info on Saturday night fireworks, visit angels.com/promotions. Meeting wraps up. 1 ball, no strikes, the count. Fletcher is the runner at second. Good speed. He's the potential tying run. Hermosillo on at first base represents the winning run. Shane Robinson, the batter. 1 ball, no strikes. Lowen delivers, and he's high and outside. Boy, he's really been missing with his pitches. He's thrown 20 of them, and he's already walked 2 batters, so that's 8 balls out of the strike zone on just those 2 batters, and he's missed on some of the other batters as well. Here's the next delivery, and that's nowhere close. That's way outside. Ball 3. 3-0. If he doesn't get Robinson, Briseño is waiting on deck, and they'll probably bring in the right-hander they up in the bullpen. Here's the 3-0 pitch, and that is high, ball 4. The bases are loaded. And sure enough, they are going to make a pitching change. Jeff Bannister is coming out of his dugout area, and he has signaled to the bullpen. So we have a break in the action. When we get back, bottom of the ninth inning, 2 outs, bases loaded. Angels trailing by a run, 2-1. We'll take a break for a pitching change and be back with more Angels baseball in a moment on the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Texas Rangers have brought in right-handed reliever Richelson Pena, and he will be trying to get the final out for them. He comes into a bases-loaded jam. Before we get the action back underway, let's pause for stations to identify themselves on the Angels Baseball Radio Network. So we'll see what gives here with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. Game on the line. At the plate for the Angels is catcher Jose Briseño. He's been up once today with a ground out. Of course, a walk would tie up this ball game, and there have already been 3 in this inning. And here's the pitch. And the first one is right in there for a called strike. Briseño, a reliever in the Rangers organization a year ago. No balls, 1 strike to count on Briseño. And here's the next pitch. Pena's delivery is right in there. So he's come in from the bullpen and done something that Lowen wasn't able to do, and that's throw strikes. And the Angels are down to their final strike in the game. Talked how good the Angels have been so far early in the Cactus League, scoring runners with 2 outs. We'll see if they can do it again. Only 1 strike left here in this at bat for Briseño. And he asks for time as he steps out of the batter's box. Now back in there. Right-hander against right-hander. Pena is ready. Pause and the pitch. And it's cut on, fouled off on the right side, backing out of play. So staying alive is Briseño. Briseño hasn't had a whole lot at bats for the Angels so far this spring. 1 today. He did have an RBI hit 2 days ago here at Tempe Diablo against the Padres. Here's the 2-strike pitch, and he chops this one foul over on the third base side. Did not get a real good swing at that pitch. Just barely got a piece of it, but able to fight it off. And the count remains 0-2. A hit could likely win the game because you might get 2 runs in with a base hit here. And out, and the Rangers hold on. 2 strikes to count. Pena is ready, and the next delivery, and that's low inside, stopped by the catcher Jimenez. So the count, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Pena is the 8th pitcher of the day here for the Rangers. The Angels have used 7. And the 1-2 delivery lifted high in the air. It's hit well down the left field side, but he pushed that one foul. That ball had home run distance by plenty, but a foul ball. You could tell he had fouled it off the moment the ball lifted off the bat. But you also knew he had made good contact on it. He hit it a long way, but just a long strike. So 1-2 the count. Sixth pitch at bat here. Good matchup. Briseño and Pena. Pena has a new baseball. He was about ready to come in, and then the catcher Jimenez asked for time, and now he's going out to the mound to have a quick visit with his right-handed reliever. Sherman Johnson would be up next if this game continues. Well, the Angels' only run today came in the first inning. Maybe the Angels will end the game with a couple here. We'll see how it plays out. Meeting is over. Counts 1-2. 2 outs, bases loaded. The pitch, and it gets by the catcher, and that's going to score the tying run. It goes all the way back to the backstop. No chance for Jimenez to throw to the plate, and now it's a 2-2 game. Well, that was not a real good pitch. The catcher Jimenez got a piece of it, but that's got to be a wild pitch all the way. So the Angels have tied it up. It's a 2-2 count. base hit wins the game hands down right here. So we'll see what happens. The other runners are now at second and third with a run in. And the 2-2 delivery. Chopped foul over on the third base side. That one there nearly got a piece of the base runner. Hermosillo had a duck as that ball was headed his direction up the third base side. I don't know if we'll go extra innings today, so if the Angels score, they win. If the Angels fail to score, game could likely end in a tie. We'll see how things play out. Here's the 2-2 low. That one's stopped by Jimenez. And now it's a full count. Well, with the run that tied up the game coming in on the wild pitch, another walk here in this inning would reload the bases. Sherman Johnson waits on deck. We'll see what gives here with 2 outs. Count full. And the 3-2 delivery. It's grounded foul on the left side. This has been a very good at bat for Briseño, who's down in the count early. And now it's a 10-pitch at bat. So to the credit of Briseño, when he had 2 strikes on him, it wasn't as if he was chasing anything and everything. And that patience paid off because eventually Pena wild pitched home the tying run. Pitch number 11 of the at bat. And the 3-2. This one's lined into right center field. It's in the gap in right center. Diving, unable to make the catch is Hoying. It's a walk-off RBI base hit for Briseño. Boy, that was a heck of an at-bat right there for him. And the Angels get a pair in the bottom of the 9th inning and come back and win today's game by the final score of 3-2. Well, we mentioned it so far this spring. The Angels keep getting 2-out runs, and they did it again today. And the Angels did it today here in the bottom of the 9th inning. So the Halos stay unbeaten in Cactus League play. It's been fun to watch so far. Angels now 5-0 in the Cactus League, and the Rangers record falls to 1-5. Angels walking off the field with the high fives and handshakes, and a nice ending to this ball game for the Angels, coming away with the victory here today by the final score of 3-2. Jose Mota will join us shortly here. We'll have a visit with Angels manager Mike Scioscia. For the fans who stuck around here today, their patience was rewarded. The Angels got that first inning run, had not scored another run until we got to the 9th. The Angels come away with a pair here in the bottom of the 9th inning to come away with the victory. Let's go down to Jose Mota. He's standing by with the Angels manager Mike Scioscia.
Thanks, Terry. Well, I know it brings a smile to your face when you see the effort from the young players, catchers behind the plate, but certainly the at-bat by Briseño. What do you think about that one?
We had a lot of good at-bats that inning, Jose, but a young catcher like Briseño's first big league camp, that shows you a lot right there. And he just battled the whole way, got a pitch to hit, drove it in the right center.
Before we get into the pitchers and starting with Chavez and Meyer relieving, but how about the catchers and throwing behind runners? How happy are you on the way the transfer has been going on all the work they put in the backfield?
Oh, they've been throwing well, no doubt about it. I think this core of catchers that we have now, probably 1 through 5 right now, and even some of our younger catchers throw the best we've had. They all have tremendous arms. And you know, we have to use it. We did a much better job last year controlling run the game. This year, hopefully, will be the same. And starting with Maldonado and Perez, these guys have great arms. But the young guys do, too. Briseño made a great throw back there to get a runner.
Once again, your starting pitching gives you a chance. Jesse Chavez, you saw him from the other side many times. What does it bring to you that you can use throughout the season?
He looked just like he did against us. You know, he's always been tough on us. He moves that ball around, has great movement on his fastball. Spins it well with a changeup. He competes really well, and you know, it's a strong 2 innings he threw today.
Meyer in relief, the things you saw early in the game or in his innings to the way he finished, and the things you guys have tried to do in the offseason to correct him, how did that look?
Well, you know, he's still working on delivery, getting his legs into it, and I think that you know, the ball's coming out hot, and hopefully he'll get it into good zones and be effective. But he has a great arm.
Mike, thank you.
All right, Jose, thank you.
Terry, you have a great evening here in the Valley of the Sun. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Jose. Enjoyed the visit as always here. Cactus League action. The Angels coming away with the 3-2 victory. For those of you watching on TV, Jose, along with Alex Curry, will have more post-game analysis. It's coming up next on Angels Live. On the radio side, we'll have some more for you as well in just a couple of minutes. This is the Angels Baseball Radio Network and Fox Sports West. Driven by your SoCal Mazda.